I didn't want to believe it. Honestly, even when I saw it with my own eyes, I kept telling myself it was a mistake. That I'd imagined it. That any second now, she'd walk in, smile, hug me, and everything would go back to how it was. But she didn't walk in, and I stayed sitting in the dark kitchen, staring at her phone. It was lying on the table. She forgot it when she went to take a shower. The screen was lit up. There was a message from some guy named Oleg. "I love you, Bunny. When are you going to tell him?" I shouldn't have read someone else's messages. I know that. But when you see something like that, can you just look away? I scrolled up. Further. Even further. They'd been seeing each other for 4 months. For months, Carl. While I was working 2 jobs so we could buy an apartment. While I was skipping a new coat for myself because she wanted new boots. While I believed we were a team. But she was a team with him. My name is Alexei. I'm 34. A structural engineer. I work on construction sites from 8 in the morning until 8 at night, and then I come home and do blueprints until 2 in the morning. My wife Anna is an interior designer. We met 7 years ago on a job site. I was building a house, she was decorating it for a client. She was so beautiful. Blonde hair, green eyes, a voice like a little bell. She smiled at me and I was done. I loved her from the first second. And she seemed to love me too. We got married a year later. No big wedding, we were saving for a place. Just signed the papers at City Hall, had lunch with our parents at a cafe, that was it. I promised myself that, in a few years, we'd have a real celebration. But that celebration never came. Everything was fine, I guess, for the first 3 years. We rented an apartment, I worked a lot, she worked too. Then she started saying that I was all work and no play. That I didn't see her anymore. That I'd become boring. But I was just tired. I wanted to give her the life she deserved. A home, a car, travel. I took out loans to pay for her courses. She wanted to open her own design studio. I gave her my whole paycheck, leaving myself just enough for bus fare and lunch. I believed we were saving for a shared future. But she was saving for a different life. I didn't know that then. I found out later when there was no going back. The first red flags started about 6 months before the day I saw that message. Anna started staying late at work. She said she had new clients, lots of projects, had to work late. I wasn't jealous. I was proud of her. I'd say, "Good for you, you're growing." Then she started going away for weekends to a friend's country house. I wasn't jealous. I'd say, "Take a break, you deserve it." Then she stopped hugging me. She'd say she was tired. I believed her. Then she stopped looking me in the eye. She'd say she had a headache. I bought her pills. I believed her. I was an idiot. A complete, absolute idiot who mistook the absence of love for exhaustion. I didn't want to see the truth, because the truth would have destroyed everything I'd built. And I'd built our life brick by brick out of trust, like a house. And every brick was laid by me. She just stood next to me and watched. And then she left for another builder. That night, after I read the messages, I didn't sleep. I sat in the kitchen until morning. Anna came out of the shower, picked up her phone, and asked, "You're not sleeping?" I said, "Just not tired." She didn't notice the phone wasn't where she'd left it. Didn't notice it was face down. She just took it and went to the bedroom. 10 minutes later, I heard her quietly laughing, reading his messages. I lay on the couch in the living room and stared at the ceiling. I didn't cry. I just stared and counted the cracks. 6 cracks, like the 6 years of our life that she'd thrown in the trash. The next day, I didn't go to work. I said I was sick. Instead, I went to a lawyer, an older man who handled our firm's legal stuff. I told him everything. He listened, shook his head, and said, "Do you have proof?" I showed him screenshots of the messages. He nodded. "That'll help. Now let's check your accounts." We pulled up my bank statements. I sat down, because I almost fell over. Anna had transferred almost everything we'd saved to some account at another bank. In the last 3 months alone, she'd moved 3 million rubles. 3 million that I'd earned with my own 2 hands. 3 million that I'd earned by skipping meals, skipping sleep, skipping drinks with friends. She'd done it in bits, 50,000, 100,000, 200,000. I never noticed because I never checked, because I trusted her, because I thought family was sacred. The lawyer said, "That's theft. But it's hard to prove if she says you gave her the money for family expenses. We need something bigger." I remembered that Anna had recently suggested I take out a loan for a new car. I said no, the old one still ran. She insisted. Said that for her professional image, a nice car mattered, clients needed to see a successful designer. I agreed. I took out a loan for $700,000. I put the car in her name because she asked me to. The car was hers. The loan was mine. That was her plan. I realized it later. The lawyer said, "You've got two options. 1. Amicable divorce, split what's left, move on. 2. You gather proof of infidelity and financial fraud, go to court, get your money back, leave her with the loans. But option 2 is war. You ready to go to war with a woman you loved?" I wasn't ready. I still loved her. Stupid, right? After what she did, I still loved her. Still hoped it was a mistake. That she'd come to her senses. That we'd talk and work it out. I'm an idiot. I decided to talk. I told Anna that evening, "We need to talk." She looked at me tiredly. Tomorrow, I'm exhausted. Tomorrow never came. She left for him that same evening. Just packed a bag and left. She said, "I can't be with you anymore. You don't understand me. You're always working. We have nothing in common. I've met someone who appreciates me." She didn't know I knew about the money. Didn't know I knew about the loan. She thought I was just a naive engineer who wouldn't notice anything. And she was right. I wouldn't have noticed. If it hadn't been for that phone she accidentally left behind. After she left, I walked around like a zombie for 2 weeks. Didn't work, didn't eat, barely slept. Coworkers called, asked where I was. I didn't answer. My mom came from another city, saw me and started crying. "Son, are you going to ruin your life over that bitch?" I didn't answer. I just sat and stared at the door, thinking she'd come back. She didn't. On the 15th day, I got a divorce petition in the mail. Anna filed. In the petition, she wrote that I was a tyrant who controlled her every move, wouldn't let her work, took all her money. I read it and couldn't believe it. She was the one who'd transferred the money. She was the one cheating. She was the one who left. And she was blaming me. Something snapped in my chest. Not from anger. From hurt. From the injustice. I'd given her everything. And she'd made me out to be a monster. I went back to the lawyer. I said, "I'm ready for war." He smiled. Pulled out a folder where he'd already gathered all the evidence. Screenshots, bank statements, witness testimony. He said, "I've been waiting for this. You've suffered long enough. Now we act." I filed a countersuit for division of assets, return of funds, and to have the loan declared her debt. I didn't want to destroy her. I just wanted to keep what I'd built. Because if I'd let her take everything, I'd be on the street with loans and nowhere to live. And she'd be with her new man, my money, and the car. That wouldn't have been just unfair. It would have been suicide. I decided to fight, not out of revenge, out of a will to survive. A month later, we were in court. We sat on opposite sides of the room. Anna came with her new man, the same Oleg. He held her hand. I looked at her and didn't recognize her. Her eyes were different. Her smile was fake. She looked at me with hatred, like I was the enemy. And yet not so long ago we'd been kissing in the kitchen and she was telling me I was the best husband in the world. The judge read out the claim. Anna demanded half of the apartment, which we'd never bought because she'd moved the money. The car, which was in her name but bought with my money, and spousal support, we had no kids. Her lawyer talked about what a terrible person I was. My lawyer stayed quiet. Then he stood up and placed all the evidence on the table. Screenshots of her messages with Oleg. Bank statements showing money transferred to his account. A copy of the loan in my name for her car. Testimony from her former friend, who said Anna had bragged, "I'll divorce him and take him for everything." The judge read the documents. Anna's face got paler and paler. Oleg stood up and walked out of the courtroom. She was alone. The judge said, "The plaintiff has provided false information about the defendant's income and behavior. Her claim is denied. The countersuit is granted. The funds transferred to a third party must be returned. The loan is declared the personal debt of the plaintiff." Anna didn't cry. She just looked at me with empty eyes. I felt no joy, just emptiness, because I'd won the battle, but lost the life I'd been building. After the hearing, I walked out of the building and sat on a bench. It was April. The sun was shining, birds were singing. But inside me it was dark as a winter midnight. I'd won. The money would have to be returned. The loan stayed with her. The car was ordered, sold, and split, but I refused my share. Let her have it. I didn't need a car that reminded me of her lies. I didn't need the money she'd stolen and probably already spent on her lover. I needed the truth. And I got it. So why did it hurt so much? Why didn't I feel relief? I sat and watched Anna come out of the courthouse. She was alone. Oleg was gone. She started crying when she saw me, but didn't come over. Walked past with her head held high, even though I could see her hands shaking. I didn't call out. I just watched. In that moment, I realized that love doesn't disappear with a click. It dies slowly, with blood, with pain. And I still loved the Anna she used to be. Not the one walking out of the courthouse. The one who'd laughed at our wedding. The one who'd said, "We're forever." Forever ended at 3 o'clock in a courtroom. I went back to the empty apartment. Anna had taken almost everything, even the towels. I sat on the floor of an empty room and stared at the wallpaper. We'd hung it together. She picked the color, I cut and glued. We argued, made up, laughed. Now the wallpaper was still there, but we were gone. I picked up my phone and called my mom. "Mom, I won the case." She cried with joy. Couldn't cry. I was just tired. So bone deep tired I couldn't even feel it anymore. The first months after the divorce, I lived like a robot. Work, home, sleep. Work, home, sleep. I stopped seeing my friends. Stopped going anywhere but work. I was afraid of people. Afraid they'd ask about Anna and I wouldn't be able to talk. I lost 6 kilos, not on purpose, I just forgot to eat. One day I passed out on a construction site. My coworkers called an ambulance. The doctor said, "You're exhausted, physically and mentally. You need rest." I didn't listen. I kept working, because if I stopped, I'd start thinking. And I didn't want to think. About 6 months after the trial, I was walking home from work and I saw Anna in a cafe. She was sitting alone, drinking coffee, staring out the window. She looked older. Dark circles under her eyes, dull hair. I stopped outside the window and watched her. She didn't see me. I stood there for a minute, 2, 3. Then I walked on. Not because I'd forgiven her. Not because I'd forgotten. But because I realized she no longer had power over me. She was just a woman in a cafe. And I was just a man walking home. And that was my liberation. A year later, I started a new life. I changed jobs, left the big company and opened my own small renovation business. Hired 2 helpers, bought a van. Things went well. I bought myself an apartment, small but mine. Not on credit, cash. I started going to the gym again. I started smiling again. But something inside still ached. Like a wound that's healed but not all the way. Doctors call it phantom pain. When the organ is gone, but it still hurts. My soul hurt for the family I no longer had. One day Oleg called me. The same guy. He said, "Alexei, I need to apologize. I didn't know Anna was married. She told me you were already divorced. Then I found out the truth. I left her. She's alone now, drowning in debt. I want to give you back some of the money she transferred to me. I didn't know it was yours." I stayed quiet. Then I said, "Keep it. I don't want anything from you. Just never call me again." I hung up. Not out of nobility. Out of exhaustion. I didn't want anything connected to Anna anymore. Not money, not apologies, not more truth. I wanted to forget. But forgetting wasn't an option. I started keeping a diary. Not for anyone else, for myself. I wrote down everything I felt. Sometimes anger. Sometimes pain. Sometimes emptiness. And one day I read what I'd written 6 months earlier. I don't want to hate Anna. I want her to be happy. But without me. Because if she's unhappy, I won't be able to be happy myself. And I want to be happy. I read it and realized I'd forgiven. Not her. Not the cheating. Not the theft. Myself. For being blind. For trusting. For not seeing the signs sooner. I forgave myself for loving. And that was the hardest part. Stop blaming myself for her betrayal. You know what the main lesson is from all this? It's not that you shouldn't trust people. It's that you should trust wisely. You can't give your whole self to someone who isn't giving themselves back to you. You can't ignore the red flags. You can't tolerate being disrespected. I learned that too late. But late is better than never. Now I'm seeing someone. Her name is Lena. She's an accountant. Calm, kind, reliable. She knows my story. And she doesn't judge me when I wake up at night from nightmares. She just strokes my head and says, "It's okay. I'm here. I don't know if we'll build a family. I don't want to jinx it. But I do know one thing. I will never again let a woman control my money. And I will never again disappear into love so completely that I lose myself." Anna, I hear, now works as a sales clerk in a clothing store. Alone. In debt. Nowhere to live. Her parents turned their backs on her when they learned the truth. Her friends disappeared. She tried to call me a few times. I didn't answer. Not out of anger, but because I don't want to go back to the past. It belongs where it is, in a locked room in my memory. Sometimes I go in there, look at our old photos and sigh. But I don't regret it. Because if it weren't for that pain, I wouldn't be who I am today. Strong, cautious, alive. I don't wish Anna any harm. I wish her to learn that happiness isn't about money or new men. It's about knowing how to value the person next to you. She didn't know how. Maybe someday she'll learn. But that's not my problem anymore. My problem is building my own life. One with room for trust but not for blindness. With love but not with martyrdom. Where I'm in charge. Not an egotist, just the master of my own fate. If you've been through something similar, if someone close betrayed you, if you've lost faith in people, don't shut down. Don't blame yourself. Talk to a lawyer, a therapist, your friends. Don't carry that pain inside. Poisons you. I carried it for a year. And I almost rotted alive. Then I exhaled and moved on. And you can too. Subscribe to the channel if you want to hear more first-person stories. I've got one about how my best friend screwed me over on a construction site and what I did about it. And another about how I pulled my brother out of debt and he stabbed me in the back. That's all coming. For now, drop a like if you agree that trust has to be earned, not given up front. And comment, what would you have done in my place? Forgiven? Taken the money back? Or left it all as it was?
I'm genuinely curious.
Thanks for listening all the way to the end. You're strong if you made it through. I also recommend checking out my older videos and my audiobook.